So we've got a bit of a technical one for you today. I'm looking at patterns in tailoring and how they should match across the garment. So we've had quite a few questions recently in the comment section asking about check matching and asking if the garment I'm wearing is correct or something on the mannequin looks wrong to them. And I said I would like to look at some of the key areas on what should match, what can match and what can't match. So this is quite a big check pattern in a tailored garment, and I'll talk you through some of the features of how it matches, how it doesn't match, how it can't match, just so that you're informed of good quality. You'll find, and for a start, if you're making something a bit cheaper, you would avoid big patterns because the consumption increases. What I mean by consumption is the amount of fabric needed to make this jacket will be significantly more than a plain jacket. So if you're looking to do something on the cheaper side, you're going to avoid big patterns. You'll certainly avoid check matching and stripe matching because it does increase the consumption. It also means it's slower to make because it needs more observation and more technical knowing and understanding. So let me talk you through this garment here. It's a very high standard of ready-to-wear tailoring, and we'll show you where it can match. So starting at the top of the garment, let's look at the shoulder seam. Now what you're looking for in shoulder seam is balance. So both shoulders to the back should look similar. What you don't often get though is the stripes actually matching. Now on a check suit that doesn't really matter because there's a lot going on, but sometimes on a plain sort of a bold rope stripe, customers would expect on a good garment to have perfect stripe matching. That's very difficult, some would say incorrect. The reason is on the shoulder seam, there's more cloth in the back than the front. Now this will vary from ready to wear to bespoke. Cheap ready to wear, I doubt puts any fullness in the back. But you've got to think that you're trying to accommodate shoulders, which naturally sort of face forward. So you want that more fullness in the back to that comfort at the front. On a bespoke garment, it would be at least ½ an inch, and that ½ an inch would be in the center of the seam. So if you're imagining you've got more cloth at the back that needs to be pressed in, there's no way, it's impossible for a stripe to match perfectly because you've got more cloth at the back than the front. From the shoulder seam, now let's look at the sleeve. Now the sleeve will match at the top, it should match very, very well, almost perfectly. So you can see here, if you look at the horizontal stripes, they're matching perfectly onto the chest of the garment. That is a non-negotiable. However, sleeves have a slight curve to them, and tailoring isn't completely straight. There is shape here as well. So what you may find is as the sleeve goes down, the matching isn't as perfect. And again, that's one of the comments you had recently. The sleeve was wrong because it didn't match both the top and bottom. Well, if you've got a shaped garment, a shaped piece of fabric going onto a straight piece of fabric, you can't match the perfect everywhere, but it should match very, very well, certainly at the very top of the garment. The same for the lapel. Now, the lapel is a contentious issue. I believe, and I was taught, that they should be balanced. And that's a key word I'll be using a lot in this video, is that ultimately you're looking for balance. So even if something isn't perfectly matching and the stripes and checks and the horizontal lines and the vertical lines, one way around, aren't aligned, they should at least be matching left to right. So you can see this lapel is matching, so they mirror each other. So you're not having one check here and one down there. Now, something I was brought to my attention, 10, 12 years ago when I was working for Chester Barry and I was working for a great tailor called Edward Sexton, was that he expected checks to match from the lapel to the chest. I remember thinking, well, that's just impossible, because I'm thinking you've got a diagonal line going on to a horizontal line, how can it match? And what he was expecting us to do in a ready-to-wear factory was to match this check here with one of the prominent checks on the chest. Now actually this garment here, he would have approved of this check matching because if you can see this line here, it matches onto the chest. That isn't always possible. And in 20 garments, maybe only 3 or 4 will have this level of matching. Even in bespoke, you won't always see it, and different bespoke tailors will disagree whether it should or shouldn't be done. It's not even a case of the more expensive ones doing it, the cheaper ones not doing it. It's just what school they were taught in and what they regarded as proper check matching. I've seen down Savile Row suits towards the top end in very bold checks that don't have this check matching, and I've seen some not so expensive Savile Row suits, if such a thing exists, having perfect matching. Bits to be aware of. What you're really looking for is balance. Now the chest pocket, this is a welt pocket, should match perfectly. So whoever's cutting the suit, whether it's be in a workshop or a bespoke tailor, should cut this out in such a manner that the stripes and checks match very well. Quick interruption, but we've got a fantastic giveaway. All you need to do is sign up in the link in the description below and you could win a £500 Rampley & Co gift voucher. And if that's not enough, you'll also receive a remote styling session with me, help you pick whatever you want. We could even talk about check matching. And now we get on to the tricky bit. This is the bit that takes some thought. Even when I was a menswear buyer and a designer, I had to often think about it and make decisions and work with my technical team to get the most aesthetically pleasing garment. And that is this front dart. Now the front dart is key to English tailoring. It's very much expected. And what it does two things. We always think of darts as taking fabric in, but it also puts fullness in. So what the dart here does is take it in from your chest, smaller to the waist, but equally it makes the chest larger. So it gives that garment a nice three-dimensional shape. However, by doing that, you can actually see the pattern getting smaller. So you can actually see how much shape is in the garment. It's often when we make sample garments and we're working with new workshops, new tailors, new patterns, we'd often use a pattern like this just to see the shape of the garment, because a technical person in the industry could see the checks and actually judge it better in a pattern fabric than just in the plain. So you can actually see how much shape is going into the front of the garment. But that causes two problems. Number one, you don't want the pattern to disappear. Often on bold stripes and bold checks, this dart here, you don't want that to be a start of a pattern that just disappears. Sometimes it's inevitable. If it happens on one side, it absolutely must happen on the other side. So again, even if the check does disappear, which isn't the most aesthetically pleasing thing, but sometimes unavoidable, it should at least do exactly the same on the other side. So again, if you're not sure if a pattern is properly matched, step back, left and right, is it mirrored? So that's the first issue. Now this here is perfect because what they've done is that the dart is right in between the two vertical stripes. So you're seeing the stripes come in and you're not losing any of the pattern. Now some tailors working with very bold stripes, and when I talk about, I'm thinking of sort of the regatta Henley style blazers. They were an action. I worked with a tailor recently making a regatta blazer, bespoke tailor, and we decided to make it without a front dart. By having no front dart, the pattern was perfect all the way around the front, and the shape in the garment was created by putting more shape into the side body of the garment. So it gave you a very nice clean look. Commercial tailoring, taking the front dart out would give you quite a boxy shape, a little bit like a sack suit from America. So that's not always the best solution. But if you are going for bespoke and you've got a particular stripe blazering, I would say, it's worth talking to a tailor about not having a front dart and putting the shape in through the side body. And now we get on to the tricky part, and often a consideration for made to measure and bespoke, and that's the pockets. Now as you can see, the seam here stops at the pocket and doesn't carry on beneath, so there has to be a decision in where you're going to match. So you've got a pocket flap here, and the rule is you match below. So the stripes on this jacket, on the pocket flap here, match very nicely below, which means it can't match above, but there has to be a judgment call here. So the front stripe is all the way through, it's perfect below, but it couldn't be on the bottom. It's just physically impossible to get that pocket flap to match in both directions. So the rule is it always matches below. Which now leads me to the outside ticket pocket, which we have on this garment. And I've spent ages in the past staring at garments thinking that doesn't look right, and then having to remind myself what the rules are. Because the ticket pocket flap matches neither above or below as far as the pattern goes. So why is it completely mismatched? The rule for the ticket pocket flap is it must match perfectly the pocket below. So if you look at the stripes on the pocket below, you'll see how the ticket pocket above reflects it perfectly. So once you know that, you can see it's balanced and it's correct, but it can be jarring on certain patterns. If this type of thing makes you uncomfortable, I would suggest when you have a bolder check pattern, don't have a flap on the ticket pocket, avoid the ticket pocket, and possibly have patch pockets. Patch pockets are a little bit easier to do matching with, or jetty pockets. But this is absolutely correct. It's important the back of the jacket also matches. So the areas you're looking for will be matching the collar onto the back of the jacket. You can see this is done very balanced. Like the front darts, there is a back seam here where you can see the shape of the garment. So what technicians have done here is they've actually built the seam in the pattern width so it matches onto the collar, and then it tapers down into the waist. Some garments you'll actually see the check disappear and come back again. Sometimes it's very difficult, especially on ready to wear or if people got different figurations. This is a very well balanced way of presenting the back. So if you made it this far, you're obviously a tailoring nerd, and I hope you enjoyed it and learned something new. Let us know in the comments below and hit that subscribe button.